It's not just Cops getting canceled, by the way, which is too bad because I always thought that was a great show. One of the early reality TV shows. Even one of the great films of all time, Gone with the Wind, is being canceled because it depicts the South in the 19th century. And that is very politically incorrect. And so it's being pulled from HBO Max. And there's a real irony to this, which is that the movie Gone with the Wind, depicting the 19th century South, actually played an important role in the development of racial relations in the country, because Hattie McDaniel, the black actress in Gone with the Wind, won an Oscar, broke a barrier for her performance. So just listen to her introduction at the Oscars ceremony, which was much more bearable at the time. Back in those days, it wasn't all glitz and glamour and Jimmy Kimmel. They kept things much shorter. It was much more humble. But listen to this beautiful introduction and a recognition that her winning the Oscar was an important step in American race relations.
I'm really especially happy that I'm chosen to present this particular plaque. To me, it seems more than just a plaque of gold. It opens the doors of this room, moves back the walls, and enables us to embrace the whole of America. An America that we love. An America that, almost alone in the world today, recognizes and pays tribute to those who give of their best, regardless of creed, race, or color. It is with the knowledge that this entire nation will stand and salute the presentation of this plaque that I present the Academy Award for the best performance of an actress in supporting roles during 1939 to Hattie McDaniel.
Listen to that introduction. What we're being told by the left now is that everybody before yesterday, everybody before we, our wonderful selves, were born, was hopelessly bigoted and racist and terrible, and now it's up to us to tear down their statues if we want to continue to be good people. That introduction was very self-aware. That introduction was aware that there was a race problem in America, and there were concrete steps you could take to ameliorate that race problem, to bring people together. And this is true going back a long way. If you go back all the way to the Declaration of Independence, written by that terrible guy, Thomas Jefferson, who was a mean old racist who was so much worse than we are, you see that Americans at the time understood there was a race problem. There was this peculiar institution of slavery that a lot of people really didn't like, and that everybody recognized was foisting a very difficult dilemma on the American colonies. They complained about it. In the Declaration of Independence, they're complaining about this and trying to work their way through it. That kind of nuance is lost when you're in the business of tearing down statues. So Hattie McDaniel gets up there, first black woman to win an Academy Award. Is her speech about how it's damn well about time a black woman wins an Academy Award, and all you people in the room who gave it to me are terrible, bigot racists? No, not quite.
Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Science, fellow members of the motion picture industry, and honored guests. This is one of the happiest moments of my life. And I want to thank each one of you who had a part in selecting me for one of the awards. For your kindness, it has made me feel very, very humble. And I shall always hold it as a beacon for anything that I may be able to do in the future. I sincerely hope I shall always be a credit to my race and to the motion picture industry. My heart is too full to tell you just how I feel. And may I say thank you, and God bless you.
So this is one of the great acceptance speeches in the history of the Oscars, and most notably because it was short. Back in these days, people had class and decorum, so they knew not to make their rambling speeches go on for 10 minutes. They kept it to, I think Hattie McDaniel did it for a minute or 90 seconds. But you heard what she said. She used phrases that are very politically incorrect. She said, "I hope to be a credit to my race." Now, that phrase you certainly couldn't say anymore. But what is in that phrase? What is in that phrase is an acknowledgement of the racial significance of this moment. And to say, I hope that I am representing my race in a good way, just as the presenter was representing her race in a good way. Imagine if the presenter came out and said, she was wearing a Ku Klux Klan hood and, she made some sort of bigoted comments. That woman would not have been a credit to her race. But what this is representing is a moment of coming together, two people recognizing their significance, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences recognizing the significance of this and trying to help American race relations. And then the word she used that's probably even less popular now is humble, humility. You're not allowed to be humble anymore. We've got to be prideful. Pride, which we've always considered to be the queen of all vices, the queen of all sins, is now considered the paragon of virtue. But humility is a lot better than pride. When you consider the great saints of history, do you remember them for their pride or their humility? If you're familiar with the real saints, then it's probably the humility. St. John Vianney, St. Francis of Assisi, St. Thomas Aquinas, one of the most intelligent, brilliant minds ever to exist on earth, was known for his humility. At the end of his life, after Thomas Aquinas had written the greatest works of theology, of philosophy ever written, Thomas Aquinas, after a religious vision, said, "Everything that I have written seems like so much straw to me now compared to what I've seen. All of my efforts, my humble efforts, have been really nothing compared to the immensity of God himself." A perfect example of humility. Even the secular saints, even if you reject the real saints and you're just talking about political saints or leftist saints or secular saints, I think of guys like Gandhi or Nelson Mandela. These are people who are really by the secular culture considered some of the greatest men to ever live. Well, what are those guys known for? Their humility, not their pride. Gandhi, in particular, puts forward this image of humility. And Nelson Mandela, the guy was imprisoned for a long time. Nelson Mandela was involved in some very radical left-wing politics, which is why conservatives have a little bit of an issue with him. But when he came out of prison, he represented a political humility, a political healing, a political coming together. That's what we want. That's what we need more of. If you want to come together and heal as a country, you need that sort of thing. But unfortunately, humility, along with Gone with the Wind, has been canceled.